General Messer, you've gotten off too easy so far.
I know.
I'm going to throw you the hard one now, and this is sitting in an unclassified setting. I want you to talk a little bit about successes, and I want to specifically talk Venezuela. It's been in the news, been a lot of discussion about the fact that this was a good example of what happens when you combine all of the joint forces, including cyber operations. Once again, I understand that this is an unclassified, but there's a lot of folks out there that might now have a curiosity about this, and they may very well want to be a part of a team in the future that you're going to have to try to recruit. Can you share with us, and I would open up to anyone else as well here, but can you share with us the types of operations and how this happens? It's not just at the national level or the international level or the big picture strategically, but tactically, how critical cyber is when you're doing, and this was a law enforcement operation, but it required the support of the armed forces of the United States. Can you share a little bit about what that meant for the cyber teams involved?
Senator,
And a no answer is not acceptable.
Senator, thanks for the question. What I probably won't do is go into the specifics of the Venezuela operation, but what I will tell you is, as has been mentioned by Secretary Honorable Sutton and General Hartman, the role that they play as leaders in pushing cyber to the forefront, I think, is critical. And that's one of the things we've seen from Chairman Kaine, is his emphasis on not just traditional kinetic effects, but the role non-kinetic effects play in all of our global operations, especially cyber. So leading up to the events in Venezuela over the last 6 months, we've been developing something new on the Joint Staff called a non-kinetic effects cell. This is designed to integrate, coordinate, and synchronize all of our non-kinetics into the planning and then, of course, the execution of any operation globally. I think it's important to point out that one of the reasons that it has been successful is the emphasis that the chairman has placed on the role of non-kinetics, and in particular cyber, and then the coordination that has continued to grow and mature with Cybercom as we work through various operations around the globe.
So in this particular case, not only there was a huge amount of work to be done beforehand, but then it had to be executed at the time, as we say, not just on the left side, but during the operation itself. For young men and women that are out there and they want to be involved in a growing and very exciting field, can you talk a little bit about what that means in terms of why we want these folks to actually be a part of not just the large cyber mission force, but actually within their own branches, and the need to maintain that continuity and understanding of the big picture by individuals who are back in with their regular units, and how that gets integrated in terms of providing direct assistance on a unit-by-unit basis. How integrated this is, and as representative of the joint forces, I just kind of wanted to hear you talk about how critical that is.
Yes, sir. So cyber operations are critical to everything we do, whether it's just day-to-day operations of the functionings of the Department of War, or it's actual execution in operations. One of the things that I'll point out is growing up in the Air Force, there was always a non-kinetic effects cell at an air operations center. But it usually existed back in a back room. It was a very dark place, and usually we didn't ask for many inputs from that team until we wanted to sprinkle what we call the lightning bolts onto some form of operation. The reality is that we've now pulled cyber operators to the forefront. So if I were talking to a group of young people who are considering a career and joining General Hartman's team over at Cybercom, I would say you're not just going to be integral to every operation we are going to do, but you will be at the forefront of everything we do, in both now and in the future.
So let's just say that there's a young man or woman out there, and they enjoy the keyboard work, and they're fascinated by cyber. They've seen what hackers do. Is there a place for the good guy hackers to be, and how would they be able to let you know that they want to go to work for you? What's the best way to get that word out?
Sir, I think there would absolutely be a role for them to play, and I think that the targeted recruiting and assessments that will be a focus of Cybercom 2.0 will open up more of those opportunities to find those unique individuals. And I want to see if General Hartman wanted to say more about that.
There is a place for them to go, Chairman, absolutely. And so
Our intent as part of Cybercom 2.0 is, you know, if you're a young person, a hacker, you want to come serve your country, when you show up at your recruiting station, we want you to be administered a cyber aptitude test. If you score well on that test, we would like you to be offered a contract to become a cyber operator in whatever your service of choice is. And we would like you to then go through the pipeline and come to Cybercom. That's the first way. The second way is we are going to execute an in-service recruiting pilot. And so if you are out in another specialty, the same way that you might attract a Delta Force operator in the Army, we're going to also give you an aptitude test. And if you meet a certain score on that aptitude test, we're going to work with your service to have you move to the cyber operational force. And so we believe those two areas are ways that we can really attract world-class talent. I do want to go back, if you would allow me, to just address a little bit the question that you asked, the J39. And so I would tell you, not just Absolute Resolve, but Midnight Hammer and a number of other operations, we've really graduated to the point where we're treating a cyber capability just like we would a kinetic capability. We're not sprinkling cyber on. We are integrating cyber operations into the Joint Force Commander's plan, and we're executing it to achieve specific effects that are ultimately tied to what the commander is trying to achieve, and we're doing it in a repeatable, sustainable manner across a number of different COCOMs. And so while we can't go in detail here, Chairman, I would love to get an opportunity to brief you in some level of detail. I do believe it is fundamentally one of the reasons we created Cybercom, and I do believe we've achieved a certain level of integration that's really important for our nation.
Thank you for that, and we will make arrangements to have a classified meeting, and we would invite you to come back and share that with the members of this subcommittee. Thank you for that.